Hi, Mayor Brown. How's it going?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm doing just fine myself. Thanks so much. Did you watch the
Does
whole?
my makeup appear to be?
What was that? Okay. So, does it seem like we're okay?
You guys found me yet?
Building a better Bay Area for a safe and secure future. This is ABC 7 News.
Hi there, this is Kristen Z. Welcome to our daily program called Getting Answers. We just watched an ABC News special report on the very first joint appearance by former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential and vice presidential ticket. Let's go ahead and show you a highlight from their first outing.
We'll create millions of jobs and fight climate change through a clean energy revolution. Bring back critical supply chains so the future is made in America. Build on the Affordable Care Act so everyone has the peace of mind that comes with health insurance. And finally, offer caregivers the dignity, the respect, and the pay they deserve. We'll protect a woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body, root out systemic racism in our justice system, and pass a new Voting Rights Act, a John Lewis Voting Rights Act, that will ensure every voice is heard and every voice is counted.
All right, someone who watched that closely is Senator Harris's political mentor, former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown. Mayor Brown joins us now to share his thoughts with us. Always great when you can do that. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. And you?
Doing just fine myself. I got to ask you, we were both watching the same thing for the past hour. So, Mayor Brown, how important was this first outing for the ticket?
Well, it was more important for the Biden people to be comfortable with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is such an impressive person on the podium. She's such an impressive person in her interviews, in her exchange with the media world. There was clear reservations about her candidacy as overshadowing the presidential nominee, in this case, Biden. But she proved that with the proper handoff to her of what they want to cover, she could cover it not so much in the traditional Kamala Harris fashion, but as a team member. She demonstrated today she can be a true team member.
I'm listening to your words and wondering if you're saying in there that she might have been a little toned down from her usual presentation, her usual self and energy level today. Did you think that?
Oh, there's no question she was toned down. As a matter of fact, I'm almost certain that she did not even write that speech, nor did her staff do that speech. I'm sure that speech was, as is the case with all team operations, done by the team. And she had the responsibility to deliver it. She delivered it. But I hope they will become a lot smarter. I hope they will allow her to do what Kamala Harris does. When she did to Barr, when she did to Sessions, and when she did to the other persons seeking the approval of the U.S. Senate, she stood out among all the senators. Hers was not political as such. Hers was one of a skilled prosecutor asking questions based on her understanding and appreciation of the facts. Biden should let her do her thing. It would be like somebody trying to control how Tiger Woods at his zenith played golf. He played golf because he was better than anybody else on the golf course. She is better than anybody else on the course of politics.
Well, do you think that was more for the Biden people, if there was some toning down, or do you think it was for what they deemed the American audience might expect or want? There's been a lot of reporting the past week over expectations for the vice president, should she be a female, rooted in sexism, that you be deferential, for example, and be able to play the role of the number two in a way that people expect. So how much do you think that was for Biden? How much for the American public?
Well, let me tell you, the single worst thing that the Biden campaign could do is not allow Kamala Harris to be Kamala Harris. This gender business will be handled appropriately by her. The allegation by Trump, in whatever fashion he deems appropriate for his purposes, she'll have an answer to that, and it will be demonstratively provided. However, if they try to have her do something that she's not terribly comfortable with doing, they've got to let her be Kamala Harris. And she is a true, clever examiner. She is a true person who can prosecute an issue equal to or better than most men or women. She will be doing wonders for females in this country if they allow her to be just herself. It will be demonstrated that she's equal, if not superior, to any male. That's what she needs to show.
You know, some say, hey, she had a tough act there. She had to strike that balance between being relatable, authentic, and also tough and ready to lead from day one. Do you think she accomplished that with her speech today?
There's no doubt in my mind that the public observed the person that could be the president. She was as good as Nancy Pelosi has been in her capacity as the speaker.
So what grade do you give her for today's performance?
I'd give her an A+.
All right. Well, nowhere to go up there. You're already at an A+, but perhaps there could be an A++ in the future. I'm sure there'll be many opportunities. I want to ask you, she does seem like she was trying the case against the Trump administration. I want to go ahead and run a clip from that.
We're reeling from the worst public health crisis in a century. The president's mismanagement of the pandemic has plunged us into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And we're experiencing a moral reckoning with racism and systemic injustice that has brought a new coalition of conscience to the streets of our country, demanding change. America is crying out for leadership. Yet we have a president who cares more about himself than the people who elected him.
All right, so is that a preview of the approach that they will take, that this election will be the referendum or about the referendum on the current administration and President Trump?
It has to be. He has to be held accountable for the misery which we are all experiencing by this sheltering in place, by this eating our own home cooking, by not being able to go to our jobs and earn our salaries without it being subsidized meagerly by the unemployment benefits that might be forthcoming. She addressed that as effectively, as meaningful, and as appropriate. And to the extent that she continues to do that, the burden is going to be on Trump. And the question will simply be one that's quite often asked by politicians who are the outers, and that is, Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And if your answer is, I'm worse off, then you ought to try something new. That's essentially a message that has to be delivered, and she is delivering it well.
It seems like the administration has already gotten, some storylines that they're ready to talk about with regard to Senator Harris. They've called her a radical with an extremist record. In the past 24 hours, she's been called nasty, I think 3 or 4 times. And then also, it seems like they can't get her name right. So maybe you can give people a quick lesson on how her name is actually said, because it seems to be floating out there incorrectly on many channels by many leaders for some reason.
I am amazed at how people would not understand instantly that Kamala is Kamala. That's her name, not Kamala or any of those kinds of funny corruptions of the spelling of that name.
Do you think those are accidents or intentional slights? What do you think?
No, I think it's intentional. I think it's intentional. I think they think she will react to that. I'm hoping she doesn't. I hope she ignores it and assign it to their ignorance.
All right, we're going to take a short break on the air, but we'll continue our conversation with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown over on our live streams, and we'll be right back. Mayor Brown, I want to ask you, what is your reaction to President Trump today saying suburban housewives support him because he's protecting the suburbs from the invasion of low-income housing, which then he pointed to Senator Cory Booker as someone that Biden would put in charge of that, for some reason choosing Senator Booker with a misspelling in his name, by the way. What is going on there, you think?
Well, Trump is doing exactly what Trump needs to do. He has all the times that we've heard from him, he has tried to divide the country between the haves and the have-nots, between the people of color and the people of not so much color, between immigrants and non-immigrants, between people of various religions. That's what he does. He doesn't apologize for it. He's very skillful at it, and it has worked successfully for him. He demolished 12 or 14 opponents of his on the Republican side of the aisle. He wiped out the Republican Party. He literally caused the college to be able, the Electoral College, to be able to come up with enough votes for him over Hillary when Hillary should have won. He's trying it again. There is no sincerity in that creature, in that human being. And at some point, he's going to come face to face with Kamala Harris, and she is going to drill him in such a way that he's going to feel like Barr or Sessions or one of those persons, or Kavanaugh, whom she had on the business of being approved for a Supreme Court seat. And he is going to rue the day that he ever crossed Kamala Harris.
Hey, we have 20 seconds before coming back on air, but do you still stick with she should have said no to the VP slot and held out for AG, or have you changed your mind since a few days ago when you said that?
Well, let me tell you, I left room for her to make up her own mind. I'm not always right. People don't always take my advice.
Hang on, Mayor. We're coming back on TV, so hang on tight. We're back with former mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown. Just a few days ago, you said that you would advise Senator Harris to say no to the VP slot if offered and hold out for Attorney General. Do you still think that, or are you kind of warming to the idea of her being VP?
No, I've always said she could be VP. As a matter of fact, as early as January 21st, 2019, when asked at an event in Dallas, and they played it back for me yesterday. They said, who should the ticket be in 2020 for Democrats? I said, Biden, president, Kamala Harris, vice president. 2019, January 21st, on the air, I said that. And so I've been of that opinion for a long time. What I needed to do, and what we all needed to do, because clearly they were on her case, and they would have announced it some time ago if some of her fellow Democrats had not tried to stop it. We needed to find a way to distract them. I'm the distraction, period. Okay. And I'm glad she didn't take my advice. Really glad. I'm glad she's the nominee.
All right. Well, I got to ask you, what are you hearing from? I know you talk to all sorts of folks from all walks of life and in the political circles. What are you hearing from people who might be white, black, East Indian, or I should say Asian, or other groups, progressives and more conservative types, police unions? What are their reactions to Senator Kamala Harris being the VP nominee?
For the first time since 2008, July of 2008, when Barack Obama became the nominee, there was a buzz in the world of politics different from anything before. That buzz is back. People really are excited about Kamala Harris and how she can and cannot perform and how new this is. Only the fourth time that we've had a woman on the national ticket in either political parties. It's absolutely fabulous. And believe me, I walked the streets. I did like 8 miles in the last 24 hours of walking around, seeing and talking to people at all these parkettes, at restaurants, outside, and what have you. And invariably, when they notice it's me, even with the mask on, they ask me about what's happening nationally, as you're doing. And it's all about Kamala Harris. It is not about anybody else. And that's good for the Democratic Party because it means those people may actually show up to vote.
Now, Vice President Biden today said he wants someone who could have that relationship with him that he had with President Barack Obama, where the vice president would be the last person in the room giving counsel before the president has to make an important decision, and someone who will challenge, what he says if they disagree, and they'll argue and tell it like it is. Do you think that Senator Harris can do that and is that person?
I do believe exactly that. What Senator Harris has to be concerned about is whether or not she'll have access to all of the information. There's still a number of Biden staffer types who resent the fact that she challenged Biden in that wonderful presentation when she talked about busing, where she said, that little girl on the bus, I'm that little girl. Some of them have to this day not forgiven her for calling Biden out. She's capable of calling anybody out, period. And she will do so to the benefit of the ticket and the people in this nation.
Well, she seemed to have tried to put that to bed herself today in her speech when she said the civil rights struggle is not new to Joe Biden. She talked about all that he had done in the civil rights struggle. So it seems like that was a way to say, hey, we're well over that. But I want to ask you, because as reporters in the weeks ahead, we want to ensure we report in such a way that is not reflecting any sexism or bias that we're all products of the society. And there was a really good letter put out. We Have Her Back. It's written by a lot of leading women, including Valerie Jarrett and also the leaders of Time's Up and Supermajority, Planned Parenthood. And they're advising us as journalists to not report on the heritage of Black women or women of color, as that perpetuates a misunderstanding about who is legitimately American. But I want to weigh that against the fact that she was very out front about her being a product of 2 immigrant parents from India and from Jamaica. And she talked about how that's enriched her and how her story is the story of America. So, how should we approach that?
Well, I have a great amount of respect for journalists. I'm sorry that I am not a true journalist. I wish I could rise above many times in my public utterances the expression of my own bias. I hope that the journalists who will be covering this campaign will do so in a way that represents dignity and respect and honor for journalism. Left to that device, the training and the discipline which they've had will cause them not to wander over the line and become an extension of the attacks, an extension of the misrepresentations, of the extensions of the misinterpretations, and simultaneously, they really ought to take on every politician who utters any words or expresses any deeds that are clearly demonstrative of their unwillingness to accept women as equal.
Well, I will certainly consider that in the days ahead. I appreciate the advice, and I so appreciate you being honest and straight up and saying, I'm so glad Kamala, as you call her, did not listen to my advice. Thank you for sharing. Always fun talking to you and picking your brain. Have a great afternoon. We'll check in again soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks. All right, take a short break. When we come back, we want to talk about breaking news today because Oakland Unified has reached a tentative deal with its teachers union about how distance learning will look. So now what? We're going to dig into that next. Taking a short break on the air. All right, thank you, Mayor Brown. Always good seeing you if you're still there. That was fun. Take care. All right. Hey, Facebook friends, thank you for weighing in. I appreciate all the comments. You know, they're certainly as interesting as his comments were. All right, I'm going to try to dig up some information for you with regard to Oakland Unified because they reached a deal with their teachers. They had started the school year without a deal. So let's see what they got. All right. Joining us next is
Hi, how are you?
Lakeisha Young. Hey, Lakeisha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
And I can see you. Fabulous. Hey, I got a little note about your group, but are you basically sort of like the PTA or the PTO of the Oakland Unified Parents?
Oh no, we're our own we're our own nonprofit organization. We are a parent-led, parent-run organization. We've been around for about 4 years.
Yes.
And yeah, so we are not a organization with Oakland Unified School District, no.
But you're made up of parents, yes?
We are parents with kids in Oakland schools, both district and charter schools in Oakland.
Got it. Okay. Have you heard the details about this deal?
No, I don't know that the details have been released as of yet.
Okay. All righty. We're coming back on air shortly. Thanks. All right, so the news broke during Midday Live today. Oakland Unified reached a tentative deal with the teachers union as distance learning is already underway. They started the school year on Monday without a deal. Joining me to talk more about this is Lakeisha Young, co-founder and executive director of Oakland Reach. Lakeisha, thanks for joining us. You are a parent, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your kid's situation?
Yes, I'm a parent of 3 children, and I run the Oakland Reach. So I have a daughter who's a senior, so you can imagine what she's going through right now, and an OUSD student. And so what's going on for me as a parent, you know, is I'm frustrated. As a parent, I'm frustrated. My daughter is a senior. She's in the process of applying to colleges, and in her first week of school, she's had 50 minutes of instruction a day. And I think about it that there's some kid that who's also applying to college, who's having a full day of instruction today. So as a parent, and I speak for a lot of parents, we have parents who are saying that their kids are having 30 minutes of class for the next couple of weeks. I have not spoken to a parent in our communities that is happy with the limited instruction that's kicking off the school year.
So the reason your daughter was getting 50 minutes a day is because the district and the teachers union had not come up with a framework that they can agree to, right? I think the district wanted 6.5 hours. The teachers wanted 5 hours of instruction a day. And I just got to ask you, where do you stand on this? Where do you think the right balance is?
Well, let me say this, because I think this is key. The number one problem in this conversation is that there's a bargaining table that does not have parents at that table, right? So a lot of these conversations are being had in our best interest without asking us what we really want for our children. So, you know, we launched a summer learning hub provided virtual instruction to over 200 families, provided 75 hours instruction in a 5-week period, and never did we hear parents being okay with such limited instruction. And they're most concerned around learning loss, because we had an education crisis well before we had a health crisis. So I think problem number one is who's at the table speaking on behalf of the families and students impacted by all of this. Who's representing us?
Yeah, and I should just adjust what I said there, because I said, you know, they were disagreeing over whether it's going to be a 6.5-hour teaching or workday or 5 hours, but we don't actually know, you know, even when they agree on the number, how much of that will be synchronized instruction, which is what I assume you parents want, right? Where you're actually interacting live with the teacher and classmates, not studying on your own or something like that.
Our learning hub this summer had at least, I think, 3.5 hours of live instruction with the teacher. Okay. So our parents want live instruction. Our parents want quality instruction. I think we're open. Obviously, parents are open to be collaborative around best practices, but our parents want their children being taught by a teacher.
So can I ask you, do you know of a lot of parents who are setting up these pods, learning pods, where they hire a tutor to come to their home and teach just a few kids? And if you know that's happening, what do you think the impact is and the broader implication is?
So no, I mean, I know families who are doing it, but our families are not. Our families are the families who cannot afford to pay to create the learning that they want to see happening when they know that the learning that they want is not happening. And that, like I said, once again, that's why we created the virtual learning hub, is because we wanted to create that opportunity for our families to get access to high quality instruction outside of the system. And in terms of like the pandemic pods, which, you know, is the name, you know, I'm a parent, and I'm not going to pass judgment on any parent setting up a scenario for their child or children that are going to work best. Parents, no matter what your socioeconomic status, a lot of our values and a lot of our aspirations and desires for our children are the same. So if you can afford it, that's great. That's why we created what we created, because our families can't afford it. So I think the impact that we hope to have is that if parents on both sides of the socioeconomic scale, very unhappy with the learning and education plans being put in front of us, put more pressure on the system around delivering high quality instruction, maybe we'll start seeing the changes. Because remember, I said to you earlier that we had an education crisis before a health crisis. Yeah. And that means that less than 30% of Black and Brown children were reading on grade level. So that needs to get solved, right?
Yeah, and it's not going to get solved with 50 minutes a day, that's for sure.
Do you have laptops? Say that correctly.
Do you have laptops for each of your 3 kids?
Yes, my kids have computers, and in our hub, we made sure that every student got a computer this summer. You know, the computers that are being coming into Oakland will not arrive until later this month. So when we launched our summer hub, we had to ensure that every single kid had a Chromebook or laptop, and the families that did not have internet access had a hotspot. So this is serious business.
Yeah. All right. Lakeisha Young, co-founder and executive director of Oakland Reach. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for getting creative. And thank you for demanding that parents be at the table and have a say in their kids' education. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a short break and be right back.
Commercial break.
All right. Lakeisha, thanks so much for sharing. I know it's not easy to talk about your own situation. You still there or are you gone? She's gone. Okay. Wow. So we hope to hear details soon from Oakland Unified with regard to this deal that they reached with the union. So far, it's mum's the word in terms of what the terms are, but parents like Lakeisha are eagerly waiting to find out exactly how many hours of instruction their child will get through this distance learning format. And as you heard her say, the district is not, doesn't have all laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots ready for all the students. They don't all have them yet they've started the school year this week on Monday. So we'll see how quickly they can catch up, but learning loss is real, and it's been going on for the past few months, and a robust distance learning needs to be in place. If I can get editorial just a little bit here, for all the children of the Bay Area and the state and the country, really. Shouldn't matter your socioeconomic status, what district you go to school in, independent or public. If it's going to be distance learning, because that is what the COVID situation and the resources available in your county and school district allow or can't allow safely, then that needs to be done right. And that does mean more than just check-ins and packets. It means actual instruction, it means actual interaction, it means actual individual feedback. So all those things remain question marks in a lot of Bay Area school districts. All right, I'm going to check out some of your comments here, folks. Yeah, most of you are still talking politics. I understand. That is the big theme of the week, with the announcement of Senator Kamala Harris as former Vice President Joe Biden's running mate on the Democratic ticket. All right. Regardless of whether you are a fan or not, they've raised a lot of money in the last 24 hours. All right, thank you so much for joining us today on this interactive show, Getting Answers. We spoke with San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, former mayor, who talked about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's joint appearance today for the very first time. We'll be back here tomorrow at 3. Take care. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.